Thank you. Hello. I introduced myself last week, but for those of you that I still don't know, my name's Hannah. I work here at LCC with the student ministry team, and I am kicking off a new series tonight called, is it up there? No. Does anybody know what it's called? I heard it. Yeah. Our series tonight is called Woke. You know, like, get woke, stay woke. Y'all know, like, could anybody right now just, like, give me a cultural definition of the word woke? Have you heard it before? Use, like, does anybody just, like, slap you on the head and be like, dude, get woke? Anybody do that to you? It's kind of weird. Well, it basically, how people use it today is if you're saying something that's kind of, like, ignorant, right? Maybe something that you just shouldn't be speaking out of turn about or that you don't really know anything about, and someone's like, dude, get woke. Like, understand. Be relevant. Be educated. Get woke, okay? That's what it means. So the first time I heard this, like, term was from my dopey little brother. He's seriously such a pain. He lives in Nebraska, okay? So already, right? Like, what an idiot. He's so stupid. Okay, and he works at a coffee shop already. Okay, so it's like are you already like picturing this dumb kid in your mind? He's like 28. He's not really a kid, but he's married. But anyway, he has long hair. He's this Midwestern hippie, and he thinks he knows so much. And he's always telling me, Hannah, get woke. Wow, you need to get woke. He works at this coffee shop, and anytime I, like, drink mediocre coffee, which to me is fine, it's just like, I just want the caffeine. I don't even really care what it tastes like. He's like, wow, get woke. I told him to send me a video of him saying it because I need you to picture this with me.
Yes. Wow, Hannah, get woke.
What a freak. He's so stupid. Does anybody have a stupid little brother that would just do something like that just to irritate the crap out of you? Yeah. Are you the little brother that irritates all the people? Yeah. Anyway, so that's woke. That's my experience with the word woke. My brother and his coffee snobbery. But we are using that word tonight to talk about truth. Because there is this reality of becoming woke, waking up to the truth of who Christ is. Because the truth is, you could be sleeping under a rock about Jesus and not even know it. You may need to get woke or be woke to who Jesus is tonight or in your life or in the way that you follow him. So that is what we are talking about tonight, about being woke to who Jesus is. And the only way to do that is to know what the Word says about him, to live in community with other people who also know Jesus and can talk about him, and to learn more of what it means to follow him. So the goal isn't just that we believe in Jesus, but that we also follow Jesus. Because you could be the most, like, culturally woke person there ever was. Like, E! News, People Magazine, whatever, might want to, like, hire you because you are so good at celebrity gossip, because you have a hydro flask, because you like pumpkin spice, okay, because you know what J-Lo said about A-Rod or whatever the crap, okay? You might think that you were so, like, woke about that stuff. But the reality is, if you don't know Jesus, then all of your enlightenment means nothing, okay? All of what culture, all of what social media, all of what the media, all of what the man say to you is completely untrue if not filtered from the lens of first knowing and understanding and following Jesus. So when I talk about being enlightened and being relevant and being woke, I don't care if you know the latest celebrity gossip or what the political, scheme of 2019 is. That's not woke. Understanding and knowing Christ is what it means to really be awake and alive and to know the truth. So we're going to dive in. We're going to study a man who knew Jesus probably better than anybody else. Any guesses? Okay, some of you were here last night. Rude. Okay. Peter. We're going to study the life of Peter just for a second, and we're going to specifically take one look from chapter John chapter 21, at a story that Peter and Jesus, that happens with Peter and Jesus. But I need you to understand a little bit about Peter's life, because we're going to be learning to follow Jesus from a guy who spent 3 years with Jesus, like following in his footsteps. Peter watched Jesus feed 12,000 people with a little bit of bread and a little bit of juice. That's what I was about to say. That's communion. A little bit of bread and a little bit of fish. You know how it's like, and today people talk about like 2 + 2 = 4, but because you can make your own truth, like you can say 2 + 2 = whatever you want, right? Well, Jesus says that 5 + 2 = 12,000. So do that math. That's his truth, okay? That's what we're going to figure out. I like it. So next time someone says, what's 2 + 2? And you can be like, I know what 5 + 2 is. 12,000. I'd be like, you're such an idiot. And they'll say, get woke. Yeah? Just like that, like get in their face. And they'll be like, you are psycho. Like, no, I love Jesus. There's a big difference. Okay. Y'all with me? Kind of dead. I mean, I don't. Okay. If I need to get woke, maybe that's my issue, but I know Jesus. All right. So, Peter followed Jesus for 3 years, watched him do a lot of miracles. He probably heard the Sermon on the Mount like 1,000 times. He could literally recite to you Jesus' teachings. He saw Jesus raise a guy from the dead. Like, he knows Jesus. And Jesus tells him one day at the dinner table, he's like, Peter, you're going to deny me. You're going to deny that you even know me. And Peter's thinking, yeah, right, Lord. I would never do that. Like, I just wouldn't. That's impossible. I know you. But then, sure enough, as Jesus is led away to be crucified and he's in front of Pilate, people ask Peter, who was trying to keep a distance, who was trying to see Jesus, who was trying to be helpful. People asked him, hey, aren't you with that guy? And Peter said, no, not me. 3 different times Peter denies Jesus. He was there as he watched him be led away to be crucified. He was there at his crucifixion. He saw Jesus give up his life for what we know as the sins of the world. But he had no idea what was going on. He thought that the man that he was following, the man that he had put so much faith and trust and hope in, even though the same man that he had denied, he thought that everything was over. But then, a spark of hope. When the women came running to the disciples saying, he's alive. Jesus is alive. And so Peter and John, they book it for where they know that Jesus was buried. And sure enough, as they get there, the tomb is empty. They go inside and says that they believed. Peter knew that Jesus had come back to life. And more than that, Jesus appeared to Peter, to all the disciples, 2 different times. So you have a man who denies Jesus, watches him die. Could you imagine that being the last thing you said about one of your best friends before they died? I don't even know him. So here's Peter, probably racked with guilt. But then he sees the risen Lord with his own eyes. He knows that Jesus didn't stay dead. And yet, here's what we're getting to in John chapter 21. Here's what happened. Starting in verse 1. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Galilee. It happened this way. Simon Peter, Thomas, also called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples were together. I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them. And they said, we'll go with you. So they went out and got into the boat, and that night they caught nothing. Okay, so I gave you the timeline of events. Peter sees Jesus raised from the dead 2 different times, and he says, yeah, I'm going to go fish. Like, what? Is that what you would do? Like, after you saw anybody raised from the dead, I'd be like up on Twitter, like, someone believe me, okay? I saw this guy. But he's like, I'm going to go fish. So the first thing that we can learn, I've got 6 things that we can learn from these first 8 verses of the book, or of the chapter 21 of John. And next week, Pastor Bobby is actually going to be giving us a video sermon, and he's going to do another 6 things that we can learn from this same book. But the first thing that I want you to take note of, get woke about, whatever, I will stop saying that. I'm sorry. I don't really like it that much, so I'm not going to use it anymore. I promise. Okay. So the first thing I want you to take note of is that failure is a part of the process. When it comes to following Jesus, failure is a part of the process. I already told you, Peter knew Jesus probably better than almost anybody else, especially living at that time. And here he goes denying Jesus. Then he sees him with his own two eyes and goes back to his old life of catching fish. Okay? That is a fail. I know it doesn't seem like it, but here's the deal. Going from a fisherman of fish to a fisherman of men, a first century term that wasn't just like a cute little phrase that Jesus used when he called the disciples and said, come on, I want you to come and catch men, be fishers of men with me. That wasn't just a cute little thing he was saying. That was actually a term used for, that rabbis used to like clone themselves. He's like, I'm going to turn you into me and teach you to turn other people into me, this awesome rabbi. Following around a teacher, following a rabbi around as he taught and led and tried to teach his philosophy, that was one of the highest callings that you could have as a young Jewish man. Being a fisherman, not so much. Okay? So we went from being a fisherman of fish to a fisherman of men, back down, you see, to a fisherman of just fish. That's a fail, okay? Failure, though, is a part of the process. But to give away the end of the story, Peter didn't stay a failure. In fact, if you've read the book of Acts at all, you know that Peter was one of the foremost evangelists in the early church, led thousands, and I would argue, if not millions of people to Jesus. But he had to go through that fire of failure first. Let me tell you this. The first time that I took the ACT, anybody in here ever taken it yet? You take it what, junior year? Senior year? Junior? Okay. So I was a junior, take the ACT. I straight up bombed the science section. Super annoying. I was on question 10, and they were like, time, and I said, there's no way. That was only 3 minutes. They're like, no, it's been an hour. I was like, oh, man. So I literally got, the worst score. So the second time, I failed on that section. But the second time I went to take it, I knew. I was like, it doesn't matter if I have to guess. I know I got to whip through this science section because I'm not good at it, right? So I knew that. I had that in the back of my mind. If I hadn't failed the first time, would I have known that the second time? Probably not. Even if someone had said, you got to cook it on the science section, I would not have believed them. Like, yeah, okay, I got this. I'm fine. My dad's a science teacher for kids. That didn't help me on the ACT, in case you're wondering. But anyway, the second time I took it, I knew better. So failure is a part of the process. Often we learn from it, we grow from it. Do you think Peter ever, after he has this encounter with Jesus again, goes back to fishing for fish? Do you think he ever again denied Jesus? Because I don't. I don't think he ever did those things again. But the truth about following Jesus means that failure is a reality and a part of the process. Number 2, when you move, others follow. So let's go back to verse 3 again. I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them, and they said, we'll go with you. We'll go with you. So Simon Peter maybe was the ringleader, or maybe they were sitting around doing a whole lot of nothing, waiting for Jesus to appear again, maybe. I don't know what they were doing, but he was just like, meh. Well, it's been a couple days since we've seen Jesus. Maybe it's for real this time. He actually said, so I'm going to go fish. And they say, we're going to go with you. People will follow you. And they can follow you to good things, to right things, or they can follow you down this path of failure that Peter was leading his friends. So just keep that in mind. I mean, we talk a lot about being a good example, and your parents or people in your life have maybe told you, don't follow the people who are a bad example, but have you ever thought of yourself as maybe the bad example? Because the reality is, whether you're a leader of 100 people or a leader of 2, you are leading someone. Someone is looking up to you. Even if it's just one of your friends that you might have no idea how much influence you have over them. But if you say something like, let's go smoke a pack, they'll be like, yeah, all right, nothing better to do. I hope none of you smoke a pack. I was trying to use it as a mild example. But, drugs, alcohol, porn, the list can go on, okay? Just don't do it. And don't lead others down the same path of destruction, okay? All right, number 3. When you return to your old ways, you come up empty. Again, so they go with him, and verse 3 says, so they went out, got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. nothing. These are like professional fishermen, okay? They caught nothing. You know, when I was growing up, I had quite the attitude problem. You can ask my mom. Really did. But then when I went away to college, it was kind of like I found something that I just needed to find and to understand in order to know myself, know that like whining and being bratty all the time isn't really going to get me what I need or what I want or even be fun to be around. So I became less of a brat, less annoying. So that was college. But then when I would go home on Christmas break or summer break or whatever, what do you think happened? I turned into this stupid, bratty person again who just like complained about everything and always was trying to like whine to my mom about this, that, and the other and talk back to her and be a snotty little know-it-all. And I would think, what's wrong with me? Going back to old ways is something that all of us are probably all too familiar with because it's comfortable, it's easy. When we change, when we make like an important decision, like we just talked about going to LOL tonight. Mary Kate did an awesome job reminding you guys to sign up for fall retreat. LOL, it's going to be awesome. But how many of you have been on something like that, a summer conference or a fall retreat or whatever, and in a moment of clarity, a moment where Jesus was so tangible to you, you felt it like right here in your heart and in your gut and in your mind. You were like, I am going to be different. I know there's a Jesus out there. I know there's this faith that can change who I am and change the world around me. I know it. And you vow that you're going to just be different, be better, follow Jesus. You recommit your life. You decide to give up that addiction. You decide to break up with that guy or girl. Did you? No. You know why? Because it's comfortable. You might decide that, and for a week or two after you get back from one of these like mountaintop experiences, you're doing great. You stay off the computer. You stop binge watching Netflix so you can use your time more wisely and study scripture. You like call friends and encourage and admonish them, and you're on fire for Jesus. And a couple weeks after that, your life gets busy again. School amps up, sports start. That friend that's not good for you, that boyfriend, girlfriend that's really not good for you, calls and just says, oh, but it'll be fine. And what do? A lot of times we go back to our old ways. And does that ever really work out for us? It doesn't, because you know that at the next fall retreat, you're going to be right there on that mountaintop experience, and you'll be like, I feel it. I know Jesus. I know you want me to not be with that guy, because so help me, he's so hot. And I can't help myself. And yet, we get back home and get settled into the comfortable life. We go back to those old ways, but Peter is here firsthand to tell us that doesn't work. It's always an empty investment at that point. And change really is hard. You're not going to do it alone. Number one, change requires commitment, which is probably the hard part, right? Staying focused on that change. Number two, it requires community, which you might feel like you're good at on the surface. But when's the last time you were like honest with your small group or your small group leader? Like really honest, okay? Requires community. And guess what? You need Jesus' help. Because moving down, oh boy, to number 4, miracles happen when Jesus is involved. Miracles happen when Jesus is involved. Let's continue reading verse 4 through 6. I lost my place. Look at that. I was flipping like crazy. John 21, verse 4 through 6 says, early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore. So they're out fishing, doing the thing that Jesus would not have condoned. But there they are. But the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? Sneaky Jesus. He knew. They did it. No, they answered. He said, throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. They probably thought they would catch a couple like minnows or whatever. But this is what happened. When they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. When Jesus is involved, miracles happen. I think there were 2 miracles in this story. Number 1, that they didn't catch anything, because I don't think that was a coincidence. And number 2, that when Jesus told them to, this is the second time Jesus told them to go fishing. Okay? The first time he said, come, I'll make you fishers of men. Now he's like, all right, we got to rehash this again. I'll make you fishers first of fish, 153 of them. Verse 11 tells us later. That's a lot of fish. Okay, 153 fish. And they were like, chunky fish that you would like buy at a market to eat. Good fish. So that was the miracle. But following Jesus, when that's you, when you decide to follow Jesus, when you turn and look to him, no matter where he is, he might be on the shore. Okay? He might be right next to you. But when you turn and you look at Jesus, following him means that you have unlimited access to him, to his grace, his salvation, his sufficiency, his sanctification, his spirit, his miracles, his truth. When you look at Jesus, you have access to all of that. So when we think about wanting to change and move in the right direction and follow Jesus with our lives, we don't do that alone and we don't do that in isolation because he works miracles in and through and for us. That's Jesus. That's following Jesus. Are you woke yet? Oh, I said I wasn't going to do it. Sorry. In the midst of the disciples' failure, returning to fish, failing to catch any, going back to old ways, Jesus helps them through it. Not only does he help them, he blesses them. He blesses them where they're at. He comes to them, reminds them of who he is, and he reinforces the fact that he isn't going anywhere. When we're stuck, the truth of following Jesus is that he will show up for you to do the miraculous or to walk with you through the mundane. Lesson number 5. Sometimes you just need to jump. When it comes to following Jesus, the truth of really committing your life to follow Jesus, sometimes it just takes a jump. Verse 7 says, then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, that's John, by the way, the disciple whom Jesus loved, said to Peter, it's the Lord. It's like, okay, hopefully Peter was like, duh, but maybe not, it doesn't say. As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, it's the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him before he'd taken it off. I don't know why it says that. It like wanted you to know that he was, fishing in his undies or something. Before he'd taken it off, jumped into the water. So John goes, Peter, it's the Lord. Side note, if you don't have a friend that's telling you where Jesus is, get you one. Please. Okay, Peter had that. And when he heard John say, there he is, it's Jesus, it's almost like Peter was waiting for it. He was longing for it. He wanted it. So he jumps out of the boat. Sink into this moment for me for just a second. It's not like a really serious moment, even though the pads of the piano make it seem like it. Okay. Just sink into this moment. You're at the top of a high dive. You're 10 years old, okay? So you're skinny as crap. You're just standing up there. You assume that everyone in the whole pool is looking at you, even though they probably aren't, but that's a 10-year-old, right? And you're like ready to make this jump. And you know it's not about physical ability. What's it about? Nerve. It's about you getting up the nerve to do it. And you say 1, 2, 3 in your head, but you like, and you don't do it. But then when you finally sail off the high dive into this exhilarating moment of like passion and pool ecstasy, you realize you're never going back. The low dive sucks. Do you remember that moment when you were 10, 9, 7, I don't know, whatever? That feeling of what it took to finally jump, take the risk, take the jump, make the moment happen. Because success requires risk. If we never jump, we never know what it's going to feel like to be fully alive, to be enlightened, to know and understand truth. Of course, I'm not talking about the high dive. I'm talking about following Jesus. So what is your jump? What's your next step? What do you need to do? Maybe for you, it's following Jesus for the first time. You're here. Maybe you've come a couple times. You have a friend that's talked to you about Jesus. And you're just like, I'm still figuring out who this Jesus is. Maybe for you, it's like you just need to find out more about him, follow him for the first time, say, I don't know yet what all of this means, but I want it. Maybe that's your jump. Maybe for you, your jump is getting rid of those old ways once and for all. Saying, I know this is bad for me. How can I step away from these old ways and live in commitment and community and walk in Jesus' miracles to finally change? Maybe that's your jump. Maybe for you, you're already there. You're like living a pretty moral life. You're following Jesus closely. For you, the next step is just like getting involved somewhere. You're like, man, I want to give back to my community. I want to serve at Benton House. I want to serve on Tuesday nights with middle school students. Hello, you could do that. It'd be awesome. You could serve at that third service on Sunday starting October 13th. Plug. Okay. But what is your jump? Where is it that you need to take the next step? Hopefully you don't decide about it in your underwear like Peter did and have to, before you jump, wrap something around yourself. Sounds like he didn't want to see Jesus in his wet whitey-tighties. I don't know. But here's my last thing. Number 6, when you jump, others will follow. I've already said that. When you move, others will follow, because people are going to follow what you do. And when you are following Jesus with laser focus, people are going to catch on to that charisma, that joy, that something different about you. They're going to be like, how did you make a change in your life, and actually stick with it? When you move, when you jump, when you decide to be all in with Christ and be right there, look at him, even if he's on the shore or if he's right next to you, others are going to follow. So, how about it? I know I've talked about, made fun of woke a little bit. But when you understand the truth, it's about rising above the noise, rising above what the media says that success is, rising above what culture says that beauty or power or fame or whatever is, rising above the lies of the world and following the only truth that will save you and the only truth that will ever fully satisfy you. So, you're going to stay asleep. You're going to get woke. Okay, last time. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much for this opportunity that we have to just dive into your word, to know more about you, to learn more about Peter, and to learn from his example about following you. God, we know that Peter knew you. He knew you better than almost anybody, and if we can learn anything from his example, Father, I pray that we would. I pray that this would sink in, this would change who we are from the inside out, and God, that we would jump, that we would take people along the ride with us. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.